This is the technical demonstration video for our CIS 499 independent study for the game Polygun. This video will be discussing on a technical level what we did for the game, and we'll be sort of going down the list of all the things, in terms of code that we did. Since there's quite a bit in our game, both, many scenes, many prefabs and such, I decided that I'll just be sort of sticking to the scripts, the actual code, for brevity's sake. This part of the video um, will not include any gameplay or actual function of the game. I'll just be discussing the code. The last 20 minutes or so of this video will be Ryan's pre-recorded game footage. There won't be any, voiceover of that. It'll just be a demonstration of the game, what you can do in the game, and then he opens up the sort of dev panel and modifies some things to show different things that can happen in the game. But we'll just get started on the scripts. In the blinking folder, we have a bunch of visual things. These are just, when a boss or other enemy type is hit by the player, they will briefly flash another color, in this case white, to indicate that they took damage. Here's a script for power-up blinking. This makes power-ups that drop in the game world blink based on the time they have remained in the game world. So after they pass their half-life time, they'll start blinking at a set speed, and then once they have elapsed 3/4 of their lifetime, they will blink at twice the uh, normal speed, and then once they've elapsed their whole lifetime, they'll despawn. As for enemies, we actually have a lot here. Most of it is pretty simple. Not this example, so obviously. We use the strategy pattern to determine enemy behavior. This is the interface. We actually just have move in enemy behavior because we moved a lot of it out into another script, which is enemy health, just because we determined that actually it's very difficult to use a strategy pattern in the way we would like to for the enemy behaviors. And so most of the enemy behaviors, standard enemies, are just basic movement towards the player, and we don't worry about it too much. There are some enemies, like the orbit enemy that Ryan made, that have some fancy visual flair to their movement, but other than that, it's pretty standard. The bosses are a lot more sophisticated in behavior. Uh, they have different phases, a lot of audio clips and visuals involved. Uh, they start spinning and shooting lasers and firing projectiles and stuff. While most enemies are just geometric shapes that move towards the player, these guys have a lot fleshing them out. And you can see we hit the etc. there, unlike in most of our scripts. But moving back up to enemy player, we have more scripts for each of the bosses, for their bullets, their lasers. This is the boss health script, which handles, if you can believe it, the boss's health and everything that relates to health. So in this case, the particle effect when they die, what material that particle is made of, and what sound occurs when the boss dies. It's the same thing for enemy health. And this is the enemy spawner. Yes, so this is what handles spawning in enemies, and you can see our wave intervals and our wave strategies there, which are also implemented as a part of the strategy pattern. Moving up into that, I believe, that's somewhere else, but this is a pretty large and complex file which handles all of the enemy spawning, and there's a lot of that and a lot of different variations of it depending on what wave you're on. Hopefully it will load. Just to give a more in-depth visual of the script. But yeah, this determines whether multiple waves of the same type can spawn at the same time. This is the rate at which the interval between waves decays over waves. So the more waves you have, the less time between waves you have to prepare. Music varies based on the waves. Bosses every 10 waves. Various strategies randomized to change up the gameplay, and so on. Let's see. And then we've got managers. We have many managers. This is the overall game manager. This handles game over, essentially, and some screen changing. Music manager handles our music, which varies from calm, moderate, and intense tracks depending on how intense the game is at that particular stage. This is our power up drop manager. This will handle what the what power up when power ups drop and the sound they make when power ups drop, and drop chance and stuff. Score manager handles the score in the game. Uh, the score in the game, like high score, persists. It keeps it as a player pref, and then everything else based on how many waves you've completed, you get bonus points and stuff like that. And you got combo multipliers, save high score, load high score, reset your score. When it's not when you die, so that you don't keep it between waves. Our upgrade manager just handles upgrades, if you can believe it. And then this is our upgrade menu manager, and that's actually this scene you can see here. Let's see, game. Yeah, you can see this is our upgrade menu where we've got, this is how many credits you got from the last round. Here's all the upgrades you can buy. Here's our tooltip telling you what upgrade you have selected is going for. Continue, quit, reset upgrades. And then we move into player, just player movement, shooting. Player takes damage. If the player is forced out of bounds, then they teleport back, so we don't have to worry about that. Player looks where the mouse is pointing. Here's actually our player stats. All of the upgrades and the player stats are handled here. I believe. Well, when we get to upgrades, you'll see it here, but it's all handled through the same system. Obviously, as player stats are modified by the upgrades as you purchase them. Here are all the base stats. Power ups, health restore, script, and this is a scriptable object. So you can see here's the prefab, it instantiates, here's the name, here's the drop chance, which feeds into the power up drop manager. This makes your bullets home in, have some magnetism towards enemies. This has a giant death laser shoot out of you, score multiplier, and multi-shot. And here are the scripts that handle that. Various colliders for the laser, change how the gun actually functions. Here's the scripts for those. Sound, pretty easy. This is what happens when an enemy dies. This is a sound player, which includes play sound. Default volume is 0.5 for audio balancing reasons. This is play sound with variance, which is the one I ended up always using, and this just has a random audio pitch variance to help with sound fatigue. This is more of a video game thing than actual code, but it's still something. And then this is power up pickup sound, which took way more effort than it should have because the way we have things set up, but it ended up working out all right. This is the rather fun and impressive main menu screen that Ryan whipped up has, it's interactable and has a bunch of sounds that play as you mouse over things and such. Here's the start menu, just wave display, which is just sort of there. Upgrades. This is, all interfaces with our scriptable objects and such. And so this, just you click a button, changes your stats. When you die, stats reset. These are the actual scriptable objects in question. It's the same throughout all of these. Well, obviously it's different functions, but more or less the same code. Ryan had a lot of trouble with this, and he worked very hard to get the upgrade system working for it. And I think he did a very good job. You might see that this screen is slightly different than it was for Ryan when he recorded the gameplay video. That's because I sort of went in after we recorded that gameplay and ended up making some visual changes to some of the game. So some things are moved around, but overall it's the same game, same functionality. It just visually looks a little different. Some colors are changed, some buttons are moved around. Let's see. Then we move to the wave strategy scripts. These are also stuff Ryan worked on. These control essentially what happens during each wave when the, let's see, where was it again? Enemy spawner. These are, what actually happens during that enemy spawning. On a boss wave, it spawns a boss from, the boss. Let's see. It spawns a boss from this list, on an enemy's wave, which is most of them. It will spawn, a random wave where they come from every direction, standard wave where they come from the corners, a swarm of blue squares, a V formation of yellow triangles, various combined waves. This is a circle of the orbiting enemies, which is a very cool and fun visual effect. And all those, you put the enemies in there, which spawn in accordance to the wave strategy, the boss prefabs, and here's all the information about those that actual game there. I'll give a quick overview of some of the stuff we've got on our players. So, colliders and the movement script and how our gun is handled. And we need multiple audio sources so that they don't overlap and cause, audio clips to short out. See, game bounds, the canvas, wave display. Yeah, that's all standard stuff. Music manager, game manager, event system, player stats. Probably one of the most significant parts of the whole game is player stats and the upgrade system, the upgrade menu, and getting all that to work. Not to mention the enemy wave spawning. This is the power up drop manager. And then this is that wave spawner I mentioned about. And then I think I'll show the main menu before.